Gentlemen, how's it going? Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank
Good,
you.
how are you?
Here's the thing. I watch a lot of TV and movies because, it's part of the gig and everything. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm not biased because maybe you guys will be biased about this, but
You hate
in
the
terms
show.
of how this looks, the color palette, the set design of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Well, I thought you meant our outfits today.
Well, you guys look great. You guys look great. It's a big day, but there's no competition in terms of a show of this scale, how this looks in the color palette and everything. Like I can't even imagine joining the show working on this. I mean, there's no competition. I'm saying this. I'm not biased. I don't work on the show. It's the most stunning show I've ever watched.
It's incredibly cinematic, isn't it? Like I've never worked. You don't get to do that in television. Generally, there's you can count on one hand the number of shows that have been able to sort of pull that off. And David Mullen and his crew are they're geniuses, and they take the time. And that was one of the fun things about this season being the last. Amazon really gave a very long leash, and then we got to play with all the toys and do just all of the things and build all of the sets. And I think they had a few extra days per episode.
I think so.
This time around.
Yeah.
And it really shows because it's just incredible, and it raises the bar for everyone working on the show when you're trying to really reach this very cinematic caliber for television, and it felt fun to deliver that.
And from top to bottom, like everything is so detailed and feels so real. Like the sets are all extraordinary. The costumes are all, if not period, like hand stitched to your body in the period fashion. It's like it takes away. It makes it so much easier to act on the show, actually, because you take away all these like facades and like having to play pretend. You just get to like live in these spaces. Yeah, it's really special.
I remember on the last week of shooting, I was walking into the set, and the set designers were hand painting a backdrop, like a 50-foot backdrop.
I've never seen this before.
No, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it was like watching Sound of Music.
It was really incredible. And they asked for the opportunity to go back and do it the way that they would have done it in the 60s.
Yeah.
And so they're all up on ladders with, broomsticks with fine little paintbrushes painting in all the detail. And it was just so cool to see this incredible, group of artisans at the top of their game pulling out all the stops. I mean, it's probably never going to be done again in TV. It's really, really amazing what they pulled off.
When did you both start realizing the cinematic components of television? Because Reid, I feel like, a lot of like HBO, like even you go back to Sopranos, like that for me, it kind of started a while back. But like you look at Veep, and Veep had a lot of moments where I thought I was watching a movie at times, but like, would you say last like kind of 12, 15 years, would you say would be what it really kind of started to be cinematic?
I think so. I think that's when television really had this renaissance, when all of a sudden TV started getting really, really good. And you started to, I, because I'm part of the HBO family, I throw them a little bit of love. They really set the tone early on with shows like The Sopranos. And people started to wake up and realize, wow, you can deliver an incredibly powerful cinematic experience, via TV. And ever since then, it's just been, just one production topping the next, and then Maisel comes along and kind of blows everything out of the water. I mean, you have like your Game of Thrones kind of stuff, which is beautiful in its own right and relies very heavily on CG components and things like that, which is its own brand of artistry. Yeah. But Maisel really captures a much more classic brand of that, and it was a singular experience to be part of.
Small things that aren't supposed to be, and Jason, you can kind of add to this. I mean, small things that aren't supposed to be that kind of a big a deal, like a family just sitting at a dinner table, or, just kind of like a stage at a nightclub, right? Like a comedy club. Things that are just kind of there feel so like elevated in Maisel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously a large part to David Mullen and Emmy Sherman-Palladino and our camera operator. What is Jim's last name?
McConkey.
Their relationship and the way that those three communicate and build out these shots and build and light this world, that's I think the magic of the whole thing is those three brains in a room together.
Absolutely. And before I wrap up quickly, I mean, I find it always interesting when, your characters are joining a show that's been established for many seasons, because I feel like there's kind of a lot of answers. You want to figure out what's going on with your characters and everything. Reid, what is that mindset joining Maisel? And like, are you just focused specific on the arc of your character? You're just kind of trying to get to know the whole atmosphere. Like, I feel like it's a lot, right? Like, it's not.
Yeah, I was, properly intimidated, sort of jumping in. It's already an iconic show by the time I joined. So, there's that, but it was, and I've said this before, it was such an incredibly welcoming set, and Rachel sets the tone, and it runs from Amy and Dan as well, but Rachel as, the number one on the show, welcoming other cast members like myself in and making sure that, on the first few days, are you comfortable? Have you met everybody? Going above and beyond her responsibility as an actress really helped me, because I was, fans, like, mega fan of everyone on the show. But then it was also kind of cool because the world that we got to play in is its own little world inside the world of Maisel. So we were sequestered off into our own little space, which really, for my part, helped, kind of drop into the character and drop into the world. And we got to sort of make our own little show within this show. And Amy and Dan kind of, we're not like improvising or anything, a whole lot, but we got to, as much as we can, really make it our own. And I didn't want to leave that world at the end. I wanted to just sort of live it, our little mock-up 30 Rock and keep doing the Gordon Ford show with these guys.
Absolutely. Jason, what about you specifically before we wrap up? Just about kind of joining what like, because it's tough, right? Because there's always going to be, you're playing catch up, I feel like, a little bit, right?
I had a little bit of a heads up because I've been around the show for a while. And so in a lot of ways, it was kind of like coming home and getting to like come and play with all these people that I've known for so long. And again, everyone from the very beginning is just like so welcoming and so supportive. The table reads for Maisel are just like absolutely incredible. And like, I'll just like, Kevin Pollak and Tony are just like the #1 fans of this thing. And like, like I'll have like a speech or something, and you get a couple laughs and Kevin looks at you, he's like, yeah, good job. And Tony's like, yeah, It's just like, it's that kind of environment, and it just like feels, like we're all kind of like all in it together, and it's like highly collaborative, especially like at that state.
Yeah, absolutely. Season 5 of Marvelous Miss Maisel premiering on Prime Video April 14th. Thank you both for your time. It was really great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.